Now let's move on to the next question. This question is taken from PYQ November 2020. This is a 5-mark question. So first of all, let's read the entire question. PQ Limited, a listed entity, is in the business of manufacturing of specialty chemicals. The company has appointed CA Jazz as CFO of the company. CA Jazz is concerned about compliance with the provision of laws and regulation that determine the reported amounts and disclosure in financial statements of PQ Limited. Accordingly, CA Jazz wants to implement such policies and procedures that can assist him in the prevention and detection of non-compliance with laws and regulations. Help CA Jazz by citing examples of such policies and procedure. So I will explain you the crux of the question. There is a company called as a PQ Limited, and that company appointed CA Jazz as CFO of the company. You have to note that CA Jazz, this person is not the statutory auditor of the company. CA Jazz is appointed as Chief Financial Officer of the company, CFO of the company. And this person is concerned about whether the company is in compliance of all laws and regulation, whether the company complies with all the provisions, and to ensure this, he wants to implement some policies and procedure. So what are the policies and procedure that CA Jazz need to implement so that the company is in compliance with all the laws and regulation? So we have to cite examples. That means we have to give what are the internal policies and what are the procedure that the company should adopt to ensure that the company is in compliance with all laws and regulations. So, before you write the answer to this question, I will give you a detailed explanation of the answer. You can just write it down, some rough notes on the side if you like it. Only start writing when I tell you to start writing the answer. Just listen carefully to what I am saying. Okay, so the first thing is that we know that this company PQ Limited, this is operating in a specialty chemical industry, and we know that this chemical industry is a highly regulated industry. So concerning this highly regulated industry, we know that law keeps on changing. Law keeps on changing. So the first question the management must ask is that what all law applicable to us? What all law applicable to us? So the answer for this question could be various, such as environmental law, then factory and safety law, then labor laws, then Companies Act. Since PQ Limited is the company, Companies Act 2013 will also apply. And you have noticed in this question is that the PQ Limited is a listed entity. Since it is a listed entity, SEBI regulation is also applicable, because SEBI regulation is mandatory for each and every listed entity. In such a case, what should the PQ Limited do? PQ Limited must regularly monitor what are the changes in law, and PQ Limited must also ensure that its day-to-day operations or its day-to-day operating procedure are designed in such a way that it complies with the law. It meets those laws, applicable laws. For example, if pollution control laws require certain waste disposal method, then the production process must also include this method. That means law should not only remain in paper, it must be built into operations also, operations of the company. So this is the first policy and procedure that I discussed. That means monitoring legal requirements and designing procedures appropriately or accordingly. That means the company should ask what are the laws and regulations applicable to us, and concerning this, the company must inculcate or the company must implement such procedures in their operations, in their daily operations. And the second policy is that the internal control. The company must institute and operate appropriate system of internal control. Simply, the company must implement internal control in their organization. We know that starting from a small organization to big corporate, internal control is mandatory. Internal controls are like safety law. that the internal control ensures. First is that internal control ensures that the mistakes don't happen easily, and second is that internal control also checks that violations are caught quickly. If there is any violation also, it must be brought to the attention of management very easily. These are the two main objectives of internal control. And PQ Limited, the company must also include internal control in their organization. This could be like various things. For example, segregation of duties. Segregation of duties is mainly for avoiding collusion among employees and approval of statutory payments. Then there must also be a compliance checklist. Compliance checklist also ensure that we do not miss any procedure or any filings. Then another best tool is that internal audit. And automated reminders for legal filings is also a good thing. If there is any automated reminders, then we will not miss out any filing forms. We know that good controls, if there is any control in an organization and if that control is appropriate, there is always a less chance of illegal acts. So this is the control mechanism, is the second important policy and procedure that the company can adopt. I hope these two procedure you got it very easily. So the first is that the company must monitor legal requirements and also design procedure accordingly. Second is that devising internal control in the organization. So another important policy that the company can adopt is establishing a code of conduct. This is one of the best thing that the company could do. We know that there should be a mandatory code of conduct for each and every organization according to its environment. This code of conduct should tell what is an acceptable behavior. That means for employees what is acceptable behavior and what is strictly prohibited. These are the two things that the code of conduct should tell each and every employee. What is acceptable behavior and what is strictly prohibited. So this code of conduct must cover certain things like compliance of laws and regulation. There should be no bribery or corruption in the organization. There should be no falsification of record. There must be respect for environmental laws. And this code of conduct must be approved by board of directors, and this must be circulated among all the employees. That means this must be properly communicated to each and every employees and workers in that organization, starting from a worker to foreman to a top management personnel. It must be strictly followed, this code of conduct, and management must actually follow it, not just issue this code of conduct. This is another policy that the company can adopt. And we know that issuing code of conduct is not at all enough. Employee must also know the relevance of laws and regulation. There is a high chance that violation of laws and regulation could happen by employees. This can be because of two reasons. One is that the employees don't know the law. This is the main thing of ignorance. Don't know the law. That's why they violated. Don't know the law. Second reason is that the employees don't understand the consequence of violation. Because of these two reasons, there is a chance of violation by employees. So in such a cases, what the company should do, the company should conduct regular training program for the employees. It must explain to the employees what are the legal responsibility, what are the consequences of such violation. That means it must educate the employees. Then if there is any violation, how you could report the violation to the top management. That means whistleblower mechanism should be there in the company. And many violations happen due to ignorance and not intention. This is a main point. So the company must ensure that the employees are trained and understand the code. This is another policy and procedure. And next is that we know that rules are to be followed, not just remained in paper. So if rules are broken and nothing happens, then there is no value of such rules. Rules loses its significance. So in such a cases, the management must monitor whether the code of conduct is actually followed and whether the appropriate action is taken. These are the two responsibilities of the management regarding rules. First is that the management must monitor whether the code is followed and second is that the management must take appropriate disciplinary action against those who do not follow these compliances. And monitoring method could be different, such as conducting internal audit or compliance reviews, then investigation of any compliance. Then disciplinary action against employees may be in the form of a warning or a suspension or a termination or reporting to higher authority if required. If management is serious, then it is always a good thing about compliance. So this is another thing. Then another practical tool I can say is that engaging legal advisors or consultant. This is one of the most practical tool, because we know that laws are very complex and law keeps on changing, and management may not have a good knowledge or expert knowledge of each and every law. In such a cases, legal advisors or consultants is required. They are very expert in interpreting such new laws, and they also give advices regarding compliance mechanism or compliance requirements. So engaging legal advisors is another important policy that could be implemented. Then maintaining a register of laws and compliance. This is one of the good tool. This is one of the good policy, because a register of this applicable laws and regulations or a record of notices, litigations, this will actually help in tracking all the compliance status. This will help in identifying risky areas, and it also provides evidence during the audits. So this is one of the best policy, one of the good policy that could be implemented. So these are all such examples of policies and procedure that help the management in preventing and detecting non-compliances. Okay, so the explanation for this question's answer is complete. Now you just need to write it together. I will write the answer on the screen and you can just follow along. Okay, so write with me. In PQ Limited listed entity, CA JAS has been appointed as CFO. PQ Limited is in the business of manufacturing of specialty chemicals. Full stop. CA JAS is concerned about compliance with the provisions of laws and regulations, and wants to implement such policies and procedures that would assist him in prevention and detection of non-compliance with laws and regulations. CA JAS is specifically wanting examples of types of policies and procedures that PQ Limited may implement so that relevant laws and regulations are properly complied with. Essay 250, consideration of laws and regulations in an audit of financial statements. The following are examples of policies and procedures that assist in prevention and detection of non-compliance with laws and regulations. So the first is monitoring legal requirements and ensuring that operating procedures are designed to meet these requirements. Second, instituting and operating appropriate systems of internal control. You have to write the whole word, okay? Internal controls. Third is developing, publicizing and following a code of conduct. Fourth, ensuring employees are properly trained and understand the code of conduct. Fifth, monitoring compliance with code of conduct and acting appropriately to discipline employees who fail to comply with it. The next, sixth, engaging legal advisors to assist in monitoring legal requirements. Seventh is maintaining a register of significant laws and regulations with which the entity has to comply within its particular industry and a record of complaints. Complaint. Okay, so this comes to the end of this entire answer. You can just check this.